Yes, we back. Now today we're gonna be talking about Sudan accusing the UAE of supporting rebel groups and destabilizing their nation for their own economic and geopolitical interests. Now, it's long been speculated that the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, has been one of the main players behind the scenes, providing weapons, support, finance for certain rebel groups, specifically the RSF, to destabilize the Sudan and gain a foothold in Sudan and get a hold of the gold mines in Sudan, right? And as a result of that, the African Sudanese have been massacred in the process. Now, I remember a while back, I did a video where it was actually a weapon shipment that was intercepted, and it was discovered that it was coming from the UAE, right, en route to the rebels, the RSF, so-called rebels, right? So this is nothing new. We've long been speculating that, yes, the UAE is involved in the destabilization of the Sudan. Now, this guy right here up on the screen, this is the leader of the RSF, right, the Rapid Support Forces, the so-called rebel group destabilizing the Sudan, right? Now, on the surface, right, people would assume, oh, this is a black man, right? Well, I mean, technically, but he doesn't identify as a black man, as an African man, right? Because obviously the historical reality of Sudan, you have certain groups, you have certain tribes that, due to migration, due to, the proximity with the Middle East, due to many centuries of race mixing, you have guys like this who, on the surface, they might appear African, but they identify as Arabs, right? They identify with their Arab heritage. And like I told you many times before on my channel, the black man, the black African man, for many centuries, for thousands of years, we have had to deal with these mixed race offspring hybrids that have been very hostile towards us, right? It just is what it is, man. It's just the reality of the fact. Now, this is off topic, but if you're familiar with Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit, right? I believe he's a Sudanese, right? But take Myron Gaines, for example, and how hostile he is towards the black community, right? So you kind of get an idea of what I mean when I talk about these, these hybrid mixed race offspring, especially in Sudan. Guys like that, they identify more closely with their Arab daddies and their Arab forefathers. That's why somebody like Myron Gaines, he goes on and on crying for, the Palestinians and crying about the Israelis, but he has a visceral hatred towards the black community. Now, anyways, let's get back into it. The Sudanese army and the RSF together led a coup in 2021, removing Sudan's civilian leadership, but fell out less than 2 years later over plans to integrate their forces. The war that broke out between them in April 2023 has plunged half of the population into hunger. Now, from what I can gather, the RSF, this so-called rebel group, this militia group, was originally part of the government, part of the national army, right? But they fell out with the government and then turned against the state and took up arms against the government. Now, these guys are not revolutionaries. Do not compare these guys to, Ibrahim Traore or things like that. All coups are not the same, right? All government takeovers are not the same. These guys are not revolutionaries. They're not freedom fighters. They are destabilizing the Sudan, and they should be wiped out. All they do is commit murder, sexual assaults, and destroy infrastructure and send all the natural resources to the UAE, to the Middle East. That's all they do, right? They just smuggle the minerals to the Middle East, and all they do is massacre Africans and destroy infrastructure. These guys provide nothing of substance. Now, like I mentioned before, due to the fact that these guys identify more closely with their Arab heritage, that kind of influences their political mentality, right? So they want to establish, like an Arab ethno state or some type of Arab hegemony in the region, right? With the Africans subjugated under their authority. Now, let's continue. The United States lawmakers find that the UAE provides weapons to Sudan's RSF, right? I did a video on that, man. They already intercepted a shipment. They intercepted a shipment en route to the RSF coming straight from the UAE, right? So the UAE is definitely a major partner behind the scenes, destabilizing the region for their own economic interests because they want to get their hands on the minerals. Now, let's continue. Sudan has filed a case against the United Arab Emirates at the World Court for allegedly violating its obligations under the Genocide Convention by arming the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF. The United Arab Emirates says it would seek immediate dismissal of the case, which it said lacked any legal or factual basis. The charges are in connection with intense ethnic-based attacks by the RSF and the allied Arab militias against the non-Arab Masalit tribe in 2023 in West Darfur. Right, like I said, these mixed breed, hybrid Arab bastards massacring native African blacks. Now let's continue. Sudanese officials have frequently accused the UAE of supporting the RSF, the government's rivals in an almost 2-year-old civil war. At the ICJ, Sudan alleges that the RSF committed genocide, murder, theft of property, sexual assault, forcible displacement, trespassing, vandalism of public properties, and violation of human rights. According to Sudan, all such acts have been perpetrated and enabled by the direct support given to the rebel RSF militia and related militia groups by the United Arab Emirates. Now, a few months back, the United States sanctioned the Sudanese so-called RSF militia leader, this guy right here. So he was sanctioned as well. So like I said, just because he was sanctioned does not mean he's a freedom fighter, right? Some of y'all get confused with that. You think if somebody gets sanctioned by the West, they're automatically on the black man's side. No, this guy hates black men. If he seen you on the street, he would kill you in the middle of the street, and he'd probably, sexually assault your mother right afterwards. So no, just because he was sanctioned does not mean that he's a freedom fighter, does not mean he's fighting white supremacy, does not mean he's fighting against Western imperialism. No, this guy is an enemy of the African man. Now, I want to switch lanes a little bit in the Sudanese conflict because it ties in with something we've been talking about recently on my channel. Take a look up on the screen. The UAE receives most of Africa's smuggled gold. A report finds that Abu Dhabi received $115 billion worth of illegal gold from the continent in the last 10 years. Now, like I said, this is an issue that we have on the continent. We have a lot of, as I call them, mineral traffickers on the continent. Some of you guys love and admire as well. Y'all get into my comment section. Y'all be booty clapping for the mineral traffickers, right? Sending the gold to the Middle East. Anyway, let's get into the article. The United Arab Emirates is the leading recipient of illegal gold smuggled out of the African continent every year. Between 2012 and 2022, the UAE received over 2,500 tons of smuggled gold from Africa, an estimated value of $115 billion. For decades, the UAE has worked to establish itself as one of the world's leading gold markets while exploiting illegal pathways. Statistics from 2022 show that gold imports to the UAE were worth around $15 billion, a 50% increase in just a year. With the price of gold reaching record highs in 2024, the increased importance and value of gold smuggling networks are likely to intensify conflict in countries like Sudan and the Congo. The UAE receives 93% of undeclared African exports, right? So listen, y'all know what it is with me. I don't spend too much time talking about it, right? I might spend a lot of time talking about the Western nations, the Western imperialists, but don't get it twisted, right? Don't get it twisted. I don't have any friendship. I don't got any camaraderie with the Arab imperialists, with the Arab supremacists. I don't got no friendship with the Arab supremacists, right? Just like I don't got no friendship with the European supremacists, right? Both of them are the opposition. Anyways, man, let's get into some of these reactions on social media. This person said, the way Pan-Arabism ruined Sudan is humiliating. Negroes entertain the smidgen of Arab admixture and ruin life for everybody. Now, listen, like I said, we've seen this phenomenon happen so many places across the world, man, whether it was the African continent, whether it was in the Caribbean. We even had these caste systems established in the southern United States and places like Louisiana. As soon as the Negro gets some admixture, as soon as he gets a little bit mixed, he starts talking stupid. He starts talking crazy. He starts talking anti-African. Now, of course, when I say that, I'm not talking about every single individual who happens to be mixed. I'm just speaking in general based on the phenomenon we have seen throughout history. We've seen it happen on the African continent. We've seen it happen in the Caribbean, like I mentioned before, in 1799, when the sons of the French colonists, the sons of the French took up arms against Dessalines and Christophe and Toussaint, right? We had to smash them boys militarily, right? Because they more identified with their French heritage, their European heritage on their father's side. So we had to crush them boys and send them into exile, right? We've seen these caste systems established in Latin America, right, where a large mixed race population more identifies with their non-African side, with their European side, or their indigenous side, right? It's a common thing we've seen throughout history, right? So, and in some cases, these things take on a violent dimension, right? Sometimes these mentalities lead to bloodshed when the ethnic tensions reach a boiling point. And usually the victims of that violence is the native black African man and woman that's just minding their business. Now, anyway, let's continue. This person said, Sudan's Pan-Arabism produced trash like Myron Gaines. Exactly. Like Myron Gaines, man, listen, if you want to see, the identity crisis that exists amongst the so-called Sudanese of Myron stock, right? Because there's various different ethnic groups in Sudan, but I'm talking about the Sudanese that comes from, Myron's lineage, right? Those Sudanese, that subset of Sudanese, right? Yeah, that's what that has produced over the years, right? Yeah, that's what it produced. This Arab identifying, this anti-African, you crying for Palestine, but you massacring the blacks in your homeland. It's ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. Anyways, like I said, man, this guy is not a freedom fighter. He's not a rebel. He's not a revolutionary. This guy is simply a warlord operating on behalf of a foreign power, in this case, the UAE, right, to destabilize his own country, to plunder the mineral wealth, plunder the natural resources, and smuggle them and ship them off to the Middle East, to his Arab daddies in the Middle East, right? So his Arab daddies getting the money, and the native black Africans of the landmass are suffering. In this case, I support the Western sanctions against him. I believe that there should be more consequences laid down, not only to him, but also his sponsors in the Middle East, right? His Arab daddies, they need to face accountability also, not just him. He can't be the fall guy that he can't be the fall guy that just goes to jail, and everybody else got to go down with him. Because like I said, I'm consistent in my ideology. I don't believe in none of this bullshit, smuggling the minerals off and shipping them off and violating countries and arming rebel groups. I don't believe in none of that bullshit. I stand on the same principles on my channel. See, when it comes to some of y'all love dumb shit like that. Anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari Salim back in the Billy S&D. Cash App in the description. Support the album available everywhere. Apple Music, Spotify. Go to the homepage of my YouTube channel, my playlist section, Sahel 1816. Enjoy yourself, man, and I'm gone. Peace.
Took on my losses and now I got racks. Took on my losses and made that shit back. Plan to make gold, I need plenty of plaques. Making my enemies empty the stash. Feel like a see me, I feel like Chiani. African gold is all over my body. African diamonds adorning my fingers. African kid when you look at my features. Enemy watching, I gotta get paid. Enemy watching and stalking my page. Watching my moves and they study my ways. Copy my energy, riding my wave. Enemy watching me like an obsession. Heart of a king, I don't need no acceptance. No, they gon' try but can't stop the progression. No, they gon' try but can't stop the ascension. Foot on the gas and I gotta go hard. Straight to the top, I've been down for too long. Plotting revenge, I'ma make them regret it. Ain't no more talking, I got too much leverage. Talking uranium, diamonds and gold. Keep that shit real, I wish death on my foes. Keep that shit real, I ain't blocking my blessings. Stacking my profit and then I invest it. Feeling untouchable, energy sacred. When I pull up, know my enemies hate it. Setting up shop at a secret location. Chopper gon' sound like a standing ovation. Moving in silence, I never been regular. One of a kind, I ain't got no competitors. Son of a king, I'm the kingdom inheritor. Do what I want, I don't care what you telling us. Say to myself, me and my team. Walking the spot, but they knowin' my name. Beautiful passenger, bet she gon' ride. Keep it authentic, I'm never gon' change. Always been solid, I'm built to survive. Gotta stay focused, I'm deep in the game.